So the aftermath of the Luka Doncic trade has been a complete disaster for the Dallas Mavericks organization. And I think it's only going to get worse from here on out. The first game Anthony Davis played, he was phenomenal. But then he got hurt, and now he's expected to be out for a month. The following game, we saw Daniel Gafford go out, and he's expected to be out for 2 weeks. Now you're left with no front court presence. Derek Lively's out. Gafford and Anthony Davis are not going to be around. And you expect the Dallas Mavericks to remain competitive in a Western Conference that has so many different teams fighting for playoff position. I'm surprised they found a way to beat Golden State and Miami the past 2 nights, given all the injuries they're dealing with. And then you have the signs from these two fans saying, fire Nico. Now, I understand the fans' frustrations. I totally get where they're coming from. They should have every right to protest. There was another clip I saw where a fan was just chanting, fire Nico, and he got escorted out. And I understand that the GM wants to control things, that you have to be careful what you say in the stadium. However, fans are going to get more riled up as this goes on. And we are literally a Kyrie Irving player option away from this whole entire situation blowing up right in their face. We are a Luka Doncic playoff runaway from this blowing up in their face. So, for fans out there who are expressing their opinions and saying what they need to see, kudos to you. But I think what's going to have a bigger impact is if you just stop showing up for their games, stop buying their tickets, stop supporting this product. That is going to hit them even more because once it affects their bottom line, then they start feeling the impact. When you're showing up to games and chanting these things, that's great. I don't think somebody should be kicked out of a basketball game for chanting fire somebody because fans should be allowed to express their opinions. Now, the sign here I wouldn't have done because you give a substantial reason to kick you out of the game. However, I get the frustration. It makes total sense. You got rid of a top 5 player in the NBA, a franchise player who was going to help the Mavericks remain competitive for the next 10 to 15 years. A guy who was the next face of the Dallas Mavericks. It went from Dirk Nowitzki to Luka Doncic, and it was supposed to be this way. But you think it's a good idea to move on from Luka and act like there's going to be no consequences. This is just a mess, and I won't be surprised if we see this get even worse for Dallas. And I'm telling you, if Kyrie Irving opts out this summer and signs with the Los Angeles Lakers, it's going to get even worse. And now you're left with Anthony Davis, who can be a reliable number one option at times, but we've also seen situations where he's inconsistent. I know he's been healthy the past 2 seasons, but can you depend on him night in and night out to play at a top 10 level? Probably not. More like top 15, top 20, and that's fine. But this might get worse. I think it will. I understand the frustrations and the anger from what the GM and the ownership have done to this team, but showing up to the games doesn't help because you're still supporting the product. The bigger impact will be just not showing up. And you could still protest. You can protest outside the stadium. You can be in the streets protesting with those signs, but doing it on their property and expressing your opinion, you're just not going to have a lot of leverage in that situation, unfortunately. Now, the fans who are chanting fire Nico, they should be allowed to stay, in my opinion. What's the harm there? They're expressing their frustrations with this team. And man, the organization is just falling apart right before our eyes. And I'm telling you, if Kyrie leaves this summer and then you're left with Anthony Davis, this is going to look worse than what happened with Brooklyn. Because at least Brooklyn, yeah, I know they traded Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant, but they never made an NBA Finals together. And, when that situation went down, you understood why they moved on because James Harden was having problems. Kyrie wasn't going to stick around. And Kevin Durant probably didn't want to stay and grind it out. But this trade came out of nowhere. And the reasons don't make any sense. You traded away a top 5 player. You got rid of a guy who was probably going to win MVP. I thought the Dallas Mavericks was going to end up being a top 4 team this season. Unfortunately, the injuries happened and Luka Doncic had that calf strain. But as time goes on and we look back at this trade, this is going to set them back 10 to 15 years. And it's going to be hard for the fans to support them, especially, I hear theories about they're trying to just move them to Las Vegas after remaining competitive for a few years. So the fans just give up on the product and the team. And we'll see if that plays out. There's other reports that saying that's not true. That's what the owner said, but it's hard to believe them right now. especially when that does make sense, when gambling is so big in the NBA and in sports in general, that these owners want to make money. But it'll come back to bite them. And when Luka's over there with the Lakers playing great basketball, they're a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. And when Rob Pelinka eventually upgrades the roster, adds a second star to replace LeBron James. Shout out to the fans for expressing their opinions. Again, if I'm a fan of this team, I'm just not going to support them. I'm not buying their tickets to the games. I'm not buying any of their jerseys or merchandise. I'm just going to boycott this team. That's what I would do. Now, fans out there should still be allowed to express how they feel, but you have to do it appropriately because when you're putting up poster signs, you're putting a target on your back. Look, I'm not saying I'm against expressing yourself, but when you're the owner of a team, you can just push them to the side and kick them out. Fair or unfair, that's going to happen. But man, this is becoming a clown show, and I think it's only going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm saying this again, if Kyrie decides to leave this summer and signs elsewhere, whether it's the Lakers or somebody else, man, it's going to be a long, long summer and season for next year for the Dallas Mavericks. And we're going to look back at this trade as it's the worst trade ever in NBA history. It could get even worse for the Mavericks, and I think it will at this point. The GM's got to figure this out. Either he needs to rebuild it from the ground up, stock on draft picks, pick a direction, or just quit at this point because, man, I feel for Dallas fans. I really do. Imagine waking up as a fan where you're supporting a top 5 player and all of a sudden he's traded and you're left wondering why. And then that same team is down 51-19 in the first quarter. I think it was 51-19 against Cleveland. And you're just left wondering why and how is this happening? This doesn't make any sense. You're in a state of shock. And when you hear the reports come out, it doesn't make you feel good. It just makes you more upset, angry. And again, I just want to support it. It's not the move. And they're imploding right before our eyes. And in my opinion, it's just not worth the hassle. Just move on. Support the NBA. If you change teams for now, I can't blame you. Or if you just want to support Luka Doncic for the Lakers, can't blame you for that either. In the end, there's going to be incompetent franchises out there that don't know what they're doing. They consistently miss in the draft. They don't make the right trades. They miss in free agency. And they don't build a championship contender or a team that can compete. And eventually it just gets old after a while. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear thoughts on how the Mavericks organization are treating their fans with expressing their opinions. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.